Check-in at Long Beach Cruise Terminal is not what it used to be. A lot of the things that we're discovering both on this and our previous sailing on the Celebration is post-COVID, the world is a little different. Cruising is largely the same, but there are some differences. And an important one is around accessibility in the Long Beach terminal. And so when we were coming to board the ship, they had an area for disability assistance, wheelchair assistance. I forget what the sign was.
Special needs seating area.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So we went over to the sign, and there's a staff person, and we said, okay, so, how does special needs work? We're also platinum, by the way. How does this work? And they said, there's no special needs, whatever, just go get in the regular line.
Despite there being about a dozen people in various level of special need.
Yeah, there were some people in wheelchairs hanging around.
Me with my cane, it's not like it wasn't obvious.
And I said at least twice, special needs assistance, or something to that effect,
yeah.
mobility assistance, something. And so in front of a sign that says, here for mobility assistance, she says, there's no mobility assistance, get in the regular line. Okay, so we hobble over to the regular line and we wait through that, which, took a while, longer than average, I would say.
At least
longer
15 minutes, probably closer to 25.
Yeah, so we've had worse. One time when we were getting on the Miracle in Long Beach, we waited like an hour. That was an exception. Normally it doesn't take nearly that long.
Well, and that was before they made changes before COVID.
That was before the renovations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So post-renovations, waiting outside has generally not been very long. But this time it was longer, and so we kind of get into the area, and it was snaking. So, looking outside, the lineup from outside the terminal was misleading. It looked shorter than it was.
Yeah.
Because once you get in, then it snaked a lot, and then you started to actually get to talk to a human. And once we spoke to a human, they said, and we pointed out, it kind of sucks that there's no, different lane or assistance or anything for someone with a mobility problem. And they said, there's an area outside. And we're like, yeah, we went there, and they told us no such monster, get in line. And so the person who was checking us in was very nice. The person outside was, I would say, curt and abrupt.
The person checking us in, though, she was like, I wish she caught the name because I wanted to get her in trouble.
Well, she didn't go that far, but she was...
No, she actually said that.
Oh, really? I missed that. I missed that. But she did seem... she seemed upset. She apologized for her coworker, and that phrasing, I was like, "Whoa, that's rough." I really threw them under the bus. But at the same time, I appreciate the fact that she was generally upset and shocked that that was our experience.
Yeah.
And she says, okay, so, after we're checked in, she goes, look, I'm going to try and get you some help here. But that didn't work because our very next step was to go through the security screener. So, but she says, after that, go to the far end of the check-in counters, and there's an assistance area over there. And from that point, it was pretty good. We went directly there. They said, okay, it'll be a couple of minutes. Have yourself a seat nearby. We sat down. 3-4 minutes later, I think, 7 at the max, she came by, and they needed what they call a pusher, which was somebody to push a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. So they got you in a wheelchair, and the person was pushing, and that was pretty good. But what was weird is we get to an elevator, and there is a literal bodybuilder, guy, he's ready for competition. Just slather some
muscle shirt, ripped to the gods. And
yeah. And
then his fitness model girlfriend in her camel jacket.
And they did have one large piece of luggage.
Yeah.
And so they were waiting, and when the elevator opened, they went in, they took in all the space, and it's just kind of weird. Wouldn't you, as just a normal person, much less staff, say hey, I'm physically able, I'll let the wheelchair go first for the elevator. So that was a little odd, particularly given that, we had the pusher with us, that, they might have been able to say something, but whatever. One thing that I did hear later was that they said that luggage over a certain size was apparently not allowed on the escalator. So they might not have been allowed to take that larger piece on the escalator, so they may have had no choice but to use the elevator. Nevertheless, I still think that, personally, I'm able-bodied, the ship ain't going nowhere, I'm in no rush, because we were, that was the other thing, too, is we had a check-in time that was 12 to 12:30, and we have priority boarding with Platinum, so even putting aside the disability dimension, and yet we were behind blue cards with 1 to 1:30 time slot who were able-bodied. So it's it's not great. And so when we mentioned it to the check-in person, they said, like, yeah, they haven't brought back the priority lines outside the terminal yet. There are some inside, but it's not as good as it used to be. We're still kind of in that COVID situation, which is weird given that almost every COVID restriction is dropped. Maybe it's a staffing issue.
I'm thinking it's more that, and they're just kind of hiding behind the shield of it's COVID still.
Yeah, well, is it like they're having trouble finding staff or they don't want to pay for staff? I don't know. But it wasn't great outside the building. Once we're inside the building, you know, and then once we eventually got on that elevator, it was largely okay from there.
And I don't think it's actually unique to Long Beach, because we've been seeing posts, San Francisco, San Diego, I think Galveston is having the same situation, so I think it's a Carnival thing where the lineups and the check-ins are different. And I mean, it seems like, and I think someone had talked to Heald about it, and he said, like, you know, we are going to eventually go back to the normal check-in process. You just need to kind of give us some time. So I'm hoping that by 2023, or at least partway into 2023, they're going to go back to normal, because everything else has gone back to more or less normal.
Yeah, to a degree.
Yeah.
And some things are better, some things are worse.
Yeah.
And so it's also unclear, like, when people have those conversations with Heald or other people, like, are they talking about priority boarding for Platinum? Are they talking about disability assistance? Are they talking pre-security or post-security? So they might not be speaking about the same things, even though they think they're making that full connection.
That's true.
I wonder about that sometimes. And so when she's mentioning post, what she's referring to is we have a Facebook group, Carnival VIFP members, Carnival VIFP Club members. I forget the full name. I'll put the link in the description. But it's pretty easy to find. It's got over 200,000 members. And so that is one way that we kind of keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the Carnival cruising world.